Hello, everyone. So, I messed with the audio. So let me know if I'm too loud. I realized that my speaking voice is a lot softer than my fluting. So I'm here. Also, I believe we're on normal latency right now. I keep forgetting that for these special streams that are not my practicing streams, I keep forgetting to put them on ultra low latency. So I apologize. There's going to be a latency of I think it's somewhere between 15 to 30 seconds or something like that. So I do apologize if it looks like I am responding really slow to you. You guys can kind of see what's going on with how delayed the chat is with this, although Streamlabs is also not particularly great at keeping up to date with the chat. So I think right now it is. So hope we don't jinx it. But yeah, cat butt heard me. Hello. So okay, first and foremost, let me say hi to everyone in the chat. I do have my glasses on so I can read your names. Hello, Victor. Hey, Mandy. Hey, Beth, Michael, Sean, Pink Kitty, Danny. Hello. I hope you guys are all doing well. I know I haven't been back in many, many weeks. I think the last time I streamed was probably, I want to say June 9th. Was it June 9th? I think it was June 9th, wasn't it? Something like that. I recall also being just like very excited to like keep doing what I was doing with the eBear and stuff like that. But life kind of exploded. Let me see. Yeah, June 9th is correct. Now, the reason why I know that date is because the very next morning we received news that John, my husband, John's grandmother passed. And we had just FaceTimed her on June 9th because at least I could feel that something wasn't quite right. And I think John could feel it too, that something wasn't quite right. She was in the hospital. And she normally never goes to the hospital. And she had been in the hospital for most of that week. So we called in to say hi via FaceTime. She still recognized us. And she passed that night, in the middle of the night in her sleep. So she passed very peacefully. But it was a shock. So yeah, before I get more into that, I just want to say thank you, all of you, for all your kind words. Michael, thank you for, relating. And yeah, Mandy, Beth, all of you guys, thank you so much for just, telling me I'm not alone. Oh my gosh. Go RK. Hi, Piper. Piper, are you there? Are you there, Piper? So Piper, Go RK is saying that Piper's, I guess, watching with you. I don't want to assume the relation, but Piper was one of my students at Interharmony Festival, the Interharmony International Music Festival in Italy, which was where I was. So lovely. Let me just make I'm gonna make the chat even bigger so I can read everything without my glasses on, because I am not enjoying the glare. Okay. So Hunt Artistry. You like it? I think I got this for like $15 at Ross or something. Yokun, hello. I'm back. Yeah. She's downstairs. Hello, John. John is a great name. My husband's name is also John. Yeah, please tell Piper I say hi. Or if she's downstairs, get her to come up here. I'll say a special hello. Let me know when she's here. um, but yeah, I'm back home in Seattle right now. But okay, so now that I've caught up with you guys, I think what I'll do is I'm just going to tell you guys what happened. So we got to the point now where we received news on June 10th when we woke up that John's grandmother passed. And it was, hi, Katie. Katie was my other student at Interharmony. Also my student on the regular. But yeah, so let's see. Right. So we received news right when we woke up that John's grandmother passed. So that particular day, we didn't really do much. We just, normally Saturday is our chores day, but we were like, nah, let's just rest. So we rested that day, and then we started making plans on Sunday to drive up to Vancouver because we live in Seattle. And Vancouver is about a 2.5-hour drive up north. So we're like, no problem. We're just going to finish our workday from home on Monday, pack up, and leave, and just stay in Vancouver for as long as our family needs us. Help out with funeral arrangements and stuff like that. So I started packing on Sunday. And then John he packs so quickly, so he packed on Monday. And then we did exactly what we planned, got up to Vancouver in the evening, late evening not too late evening. Like we got there around 9:30, 10, something like that. It wasn't that late. And then, got settled in, went to sleep. And because I was staying at my in-laws' place, because my parents' place is going under renovations. So that's why we couldn't stay with my parents. So we stayed with my in-laws. And besides, it was John's grandmother who had passed. So it made more sense to stay with the in-laws. So we could be present and cook, help with funeral arrangements, stuff like that. But yeah, we went to sleep. And then on Tuesday morning, woke up to news, a message from my family saying that my grandmother passed the night before. My grandmother is in San Francisco. So this really, it kind of felt like having to relive the same nightmare like immediately, like a horrible version of Groundhog Day. And so I canceled my lessons that day, and then we did the same thing. Rest, cry, all the things. And then, I also canceled my lessons the next day as well. And then I got back to teaching on the Thursday. And then during all of this, we essentially started planning 2 funerals at the same time. Now, my parents are very, very familiar with arranging funerals because my dad is a pastor and my mom has been married to him for a very long time and plays the piano. So they are kind of your typical funeral duo. So he essentially was asked by both sides of the family. I did encourage John's family to ask my parents for help because they were thinking about it, but they didn't really want to bother them, so much. But then I was like, no, like, please ask my parents to do it, because my parents are really experienced. So, yeah, so our families were planning double funeral over the course of 2-3 weeks. So, surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly for some people, but surprisingly to me, planning a funeral is actually weirdly very similar to planning a wedding. So if you've ever planned a wedding, or if you've ever been involved, or if you've ever watched someone plan a wedding, funeral planning is frighteningly similar. You do a lot of the same things, but it's the end of it. It's the end of a chapter rather than the beginning of a chapter. So we did all of that. And then what happened next? Right. So from when we arrived, because we arrived in Vancouver on, 11th, 12th. So we arrived in Vancouver on the 12th. John's grandmother's memorial ended up being on the 23rd. And then we drove back to Seattle the next day, stayed a few days, flew out the following Tuesday, which I have to look at the calendar to see how this all panned out. I think, so we flew out on the 27th. The memorial was on, before my grandmother, was on the 28th. Then we flew back on the 29th. John got to stay at home after that. But then I flew out to Italy on July 3rd. And then I've been in Italy for 2 weeks. Flew back on July 6th. Had insane sleep debt and jet lag. So I wasn't quite myself again until July 21st. And now I'm here. Now it's the 24th and I am finally back. So that is kind of the gist of what has happened in June to July. So it was a lot. It was a lot. I am very aware that I haven't fully processed everything. But that's why I disappeared so suddenly. I did manage to post a little community post on my YouTube channel. I know that it is not a great way to reach everyone, but we were so suddenly plunged into just funeral planning that there was really no time for me to craft a statement essentially of what I was going through. So I typed up that post on my community posts here on YouTube really quickly. I think in maybe 5 minutes or something like that. But I don't think I ended up posting it to my other social media because I just at that time couldn't really handle that many responses. So I kept it just to YouTube. And I saw all of your responses. I didn't really have much in me to respond. So I just kind of, clicked love on every single comment. But I couldn't really, it was really hard to come up with things to say in response. So I hope you guys understand why I didn't. But yeah, so it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. And then I kind of knew that I wasn't really going to have time to process it while I'm in Italy, especially because, you're in a completely different country. I'm working, albeit very fun work, but I am working. And essentially when you are living with a bunch of people you just met for 2 weeks, it takes a lot out of you, at least for an introvert. It takes a lot out of you. I love them all. Everyone was so lovely and kind and beautiful, really, and at the same time, though, there wasn't a lot of time to process what happened. So, I'm also very much enjoying the espresso there and the pasta and, the gelato. It's amazing. So it was kind of strange to be on the other side of the world suddenly, right after essentially June exploded. So I did take a whole week off when I came back. Took a whole week off, made sure I didn't work at all, and I just rested. And I'm really glad I did that, because today, coming back to work, I was like, yeah, I'm feeling really good. Like, I'm feeling really, really good about coming back to streaming, coming back to teaching, answering all my emails. Holy cow, there's so many emails that I had to respond to. But such is the case whenever you're away, right? But yeah, like, I think lately it's really been an exercise in transparency. Not hiding that this has happened and not trying to pretend like I'm okay. It's weird because, like, I'm sure so many of you have gone through grief as well. So you know what I mean when I say that there are some days and some times of the day where you feel completely normal and completely fine and completely like nothing is out of sorts. And then suddenly it'll hit you out of nowhere. And for like an hour or two, you just can't do anything. Like, you can't function. And like, I'm personally still processing a lot. Hey, Piper! So, everyone in the chat, Katie Myers and Piper Lore were my students in Interharmony. It's so nice to see you guys here, too. Hey, Jane. Hey, Lucas. Yeah, so oh man. So, I think for me, oh, Michael, I want to cry again. I'm not at this stage yet, I think. It takes a long time for me to cry. So I'm not exactly surprised that I'm not crying right now. I've missed you too, Katie. We've seen each other literally every single day for 2 weeks, and then suddenly we're not. It's like so weird. But yeah, in terms of my processing, I think just to, not that I owe you guys an update, but I think that it's good to have that transparency between me and you guys, the viewers, so that you guys understand where I'm coming from. The relationship between me and my grandmother has very plainly been a little distant because, oh dear. Okay. We had a hiccup in the live stream for a hot second there. I'm going to rewind what I said. Okay, we're good now. It's in the green. Okay, I'm going to rewind what I said. So, about my grandmother, my relationship with her in recent years has been really distant because she had dementia starting about 14 years ago, I think it is. Sorry, there we go. Okay. If you guys are having any trouble with your player because my internet just blipped a little bit, I'm so sorry, guys. So refresh the page, it'll be better. Kitty Cat Rose, thank you so much. Hey Haley, thank you so much. Hey Hans, how are you? Um, yeah, so so my grandmother has had dementia for 14 years, which is a lot of my life. And so I did have the chance when I was living in San Francisco during my master's. I did have the chance to take her out for lunches and stuff and chat with her. And, you know, she stayed with my mom and me for some weeks here and there. And, you know, we did get to know her. But I don't think that I have had kind of what you would think is your typical relationship with your grandmother. She was a very strong woman, and in her day, incredible, because she climbed up the career ranks to become a principal, like an elementary school principal, in her years in Hong Kong. And when she passed, she was 94. So that gives you an idea of how long ago it was that she was an elementary school principal in Hong Kong. Now, for those of you who are younger, it might not seem that that weird to have a woman be that, like, climb that high in their career. But in those days, it was really incredible. She was always complaining about having to fight her way through a man's world. And this is something that you will hear from a lot of people in her generation. There are not a lot of very strong women in that generation, but my grandmother was one of them. But because of that, I didn't really have quite this, like, typical, like, grandparent relation, but she was more just always an incredible role model, you know. She did things like pass down public speaking techniques to my mom, who passed it down to me, you know, that type of thing. So like, in terms of me actually getting to know her, I didn't actually really get to know her that well until I was much older. Like, I was an adult by the time I really started spending time with her. And then when her dementia hit, it just coincided with me moving to Seattle. Like, her dementia hit for a few years by the time I moved to Seattle. So, you know, so, like, it was harder to go back to San Francisco to spend time with her. But I am really glad that I had some time with her, you know, like, given my situation, I do actually think that, like I don't regret my time with her, you know. So I think it, like, for me, because we knew that she was going to pass for a really long time. In fact, doctors were saying that she wasn't going to really make it past 2017, and yet she made it till now, like, past COVID too. So, like, she's always been that type of strong person. And so, like, in my mind, I've been kind of watching her pass away very slowly for the past 14 years, you know. I would say that it really kind of started to hit me, like, about 6 years ago when they said that she was going to pass in 2017. So really, I think it's really over the last 6 years has really just been a very slow death. And so I think what really hit me was the finality of it. You know, she's in a better place. She went in her sleep, you know. Like honestly, it was like the best that you could ask for, you know. And she's a very happy dementia patient too. Like I know a lot of people with dementia get very angry because, you know, like everything is out of sorts, but she was just a very happy dementia patient. So like in terms of how things have gone, it went the best that it could, but I think my brain is still trying to wrestle with the finality of her passing, because she's always just kind of been a figure in my life. And I guess she still is. But it's a little different when you know that they've passed. So, hey, Tomash. Yeah, I get it, Tomash. So I was asked to play at my grandmother's funeral, and I did. I played the first movement to the C.P. Bach solo sonata in A minor, and partially it was because, you know, conveniently it's not accompanied, so you don't have to do any rehearsals or anything. And especially when something is funerals are always planned very quickly because it has to happen within a couple of weeks of the passing, right? Hey, Connor. Yeah, I decided not to play it traditionally, like Baroque traditionally. I decided to just play it the way that I've kind of always wanted to, which is to play it as if you're crying. And that went over really well. And also, like, what I noticed was, because I wasn't playing the flute that much when we were in Vancouver, I was mostly just teaching. And then the rest of it was just funeral planning and trying to rest. But when I came back and practiced for a little bit, because I knew I was going to be playing this at my grandmother's funeral, I noticed that my sound changed. So the tone is a little bit rounder and a little bit more profound, a little bit deeper. And so it sounds a lot sadder these days. I was really noticing this in Italy. When I was practicing a little bit in Italy, I was like, you know, like this is not the way I normally sound. So I talked to John about it. John was saying that it's likely that this life experience has gotten me to dip into new tone colors. And right now I'm really feeling those emotions. And so that's what I'm naturally digging into these days. But this is the second time in my life that my tone color has changed on a dime. The first time was when I had my heart broken during my master's, and my sound changed immediately. Like I was able to express things that I've never been able to express before, primarily sad things. And this is the second time in my life that it has happened, where it's just on a dime, my tone changed and I could not make it sound the way that I used to. So today's a bit of an exception because I noticed today is a bad tone day. So, but yeah, like all through Italy, I just noticed that I was just like, man, I sound so sad, you know? Yeah. So, oh, Deanna, I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's a slow death, watching someone go through dementia. So like it's kind of like after a while it's like your mind kind of just accepts that they're passing, but then when they actually pass, the finality of it still, at least in my experience, it still really took me by surprise. um yeah, it is really incredible how our emotions affect our performance. Yeah. um it's you know, I have told my students before that like um playing the flute is a litmus test that tells you how you actually feel, regardless of whether you actually feel it or not. You know what I mean? Like sometimes we're not aware of what we're feeling, and you know, that is like playing an instrument though. You're constantly forced to, you know, uh to face that, you know, because you'll sound a certain way, and you have to face the fact that that's how you sound, and maybe it's a reflection of what you're thinking, you know. Your sound drastically changed on the piano in 1996 after you had 3 people close to you pass. Yeah, I believe it. I absolutely believe it. And with regards to John's grandmother, I had the wonderful experience of being able to spend some time with her in the time that I've known John. So over the last 9 years, and she's also an incredibly strong woman, and like she learned how to speak Cantonese by teaching a sewing class. Like what the heck, right? And she was the one who, like, when we got married, she was like, are you doing things your way? Like, are you holding this wedding the way you want to? And she passed when she was 92. So in the same generation as my grandmother. So again, I think for younger people in the chat here, you may not understand right now the significance of an older lady asking you if you are actually doing your wedding your way. Because I would say that predominantly in that generation, their tradition really matters, right? You have to do things a certain way. And so for a woman of that generation to ask their grandchild's fiance, you know, are you doing a wedding the way that you want to? I think that speaks volumes about the type of person that she is. And so when I said, yes, we are, she was like, good. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise, you know? You know, like she went on to tell me how she couldn't choose things for her own wedding. So she was like, you know, do things your way, you know, so you'll, you know, the implication was so that you will never regret it. And, you know, like she was always a constant. Every single time we went up to Vancouver, you know, the first thing we would do is go and hug Mama. That's what we called her. And we would always buy as many ginger related products as we possibly could because she loved ginger. So we would buy as anytime we saw anything ginger, we bought it from Mama. And you know, always brought it up to her. If it was sweet, she would always say it's too sweet, but it doesn't matter because she loves her sweets. You know, like it was really awesome to be able to get to know her, both as a very strong woman and also for her really cute quirks. And it just kind of sucks that when we go up, and we really felt it this time when we went up, like she's just not there, you know? Like, she should be there. She's like part of our experience of going up to Vancouver to see our family. So, yeah. Yeah, see, Jane understands. In their generation, they would have to do everything the family's traditions, and it becomes difficult. Yep. Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, I also agree that the change in tone on the instruments is a form of processing. Absolutely. Um, I don't really know how to articulate right now exactly how I feel about both of their passings, because I related to each of them very differently. Um, and they were both just kind of constants in my life, you know? And to know that they're just not there anymore is just really weird right now. Like, it feels like they're missing, if that makes sense. Like, there's, you know, like it feels incomplete, you know, right now. And like I think my brain hasn't really gotten around it. So yeah, see, Jane, there we go. Your own parents did not plan their own wedding. Their parents did it all. Yeah, that's exactly what John's grandmother told me. She said that it was her father-in-law who ended up planning their entire wedding for them, and she didn't get to choose anything. And so, yeah, I mean, think about it, like a person in that generation telling us to do things our way, you know, to break tradition and just do things our way. Incredible. So after all that, went to Italy, and let me tell you, I'm going to make a separate video about this, but I'll run some kind of, I guess, my preliminary thoughts with you guys. The students were amazing. Students, the staff, the faculty, everyone was lovely and kind and amazing. I think in the vlog that I make, I want to focus on my experience, because I think that's, like, I want to share with you guys what affected me the most in this festival, and I don't want it to be like a look what I can do, because I don't know. I think especially after experiencing so much loss right before, it kind of makes you reprioritize and, you know, like, I don't really care about, you know, like, I feel like it feels like sometimes the like performance aspect of music, you know, sometimes, I know this sounds really harsh, but sometimes it just feels stupid in the face of mortality. And it's that whole thing of like, what's the point, you know? Yes, there is a point. Music makes people feel things and can inspire people and heal people. Yes, I totally get all of that. But if you're to take just the, oh my God, Nathan, thank you so much for gifting a membership. I believe, can I like, oh, they did a thing now where like, apparently I can like put a heart next to your like gifted memberships, but Maybe it's for super chats. I don't know. Anyway, thank you, Nathan, so much for the gifted membership. So Deanna, you were gifted a membership by Nathan, so you get all the perks. I need to give you guys more perks for being members. But I think you can use my emotes now. I have a couple of member only emotes that you can use in chat. I think I put those in anyway. But yeah, so when I got to Italy, I was like, it felt like I was just overcome with anxiety about having to prove myself as a worthy faculty member, because I had just come out of 3 weeks of hell. And there was no part of me that was thinking about reputation or how I should conduct myself as a faculty member. How much should I know about music and whatever to teach it? You know, like, and then suddenly I'm flying to Italy, and you know, suddenly this is the first time that I'm part of a faculty, like I'm actually called a faculty member. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure I was the youngest one, the youngest faculty member. I know that I taught a lesson to someone who is only 3 years younger than me. Most of the students that I taught lessons to were about 10 years younger than me. You know, and it was just this weird juxtaposition of coming out from thinking about mortality and what is the point of all of this, to like suddenly I felt like I had to look and act a certain way. And it was just such a shift that I think anxiety completely took over, and I was like, oh no, I am so unprepared for this. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like a fraud. It's the imposter syndrome thing. So it just came all at once, because I was not dealing with anything musical except for teaching lessons for the 3 weeks prior to doing this big like teaching gig, you know? And then the night before my first chamber music coaching, because I was coaching the Mozart Flute Quartet. I don't know if you guys know the one. Do you guys know that one? It's really floofy. But I had never coached string instruments before, and I was so scared that I was going to be just the most completely unhelpful coach ever, and that I would be a total waste of these students' money. And I was so overcome with anxiety. I woke up at 3:45 a.m. I realized by 5 a.m. that I was not doing okay. I ended up texting John, and because of the time zone difference, it was his evening, I think. So he asked me if I needed to call, and I was like, in my head, I was like, I hate asking for help, but I think I need help. So I called, and then John told me these amazing words of wisdom that really carried me through the rest of the festival. And it was that you have nothing to prove. Like, people wanted you to come here as faculty for a reason. You were hired for a reason. You know, there's no proving that needs to be done anymore. They hired you to be yourself. So just be yourself. You know, if there is something you don't know, you don't have to hide it. You can ask, you know? But I think what really, really stuck with me was just the fact that he was like, you have nothing to prove. You have absolutely nothing to prove. You know, you don't have to be a certain way. You know, you don't have to look a certain way. You don't have to act a certain way. You can just be yourself. And, I'm about to cry. But I definitely cried that night. And so I lived by those words, and I still live by those words for the rest of the festival. And I shared those words too with students whenever I felt that they needed it. And I could just see how much it uplifted not only myself, but everyone else around me. Like, the moment you stop trying to prove yourself, it's kind of insane, the butterfly effect it has around you. Like, people, like, if you open up to people, they open up, y'all realize that you're all really just the same. We're all navigating this thing called life in this crazy world together, really. None of us are truly alone, even though we feel it, you know? And, well, Nathan, I hope you're enjoying the deep stream. But yeah, so it was very vulnerable to open up first to people. So, you know, when people asked how I was doing, after that, you know, talk, I decided to just be very forthright with anyone who asked me how I was doing. I was just like, in all honesty, I'm probably not okay. You know, my grandmother just passed, and 3 days before that, my husband's grandmother passed. And we've just been dealing with that for the last 3 weeks before this, you know. There is something really beautiful about not trying to prove yourself, being transparent, and opening up first. Those three things, if you do those three things, there's something magical and very transformative about that, about your world, what it does to the people around you when you do that. Because every time that I did open up my mouth and say this and repeat it, immediately, kind of like in the chat here, you guys did it to me just now. Everyone always ends up saying, hey, something very similar or the same thing happened to me. You know, I feel you, right? And a lot of times this can come from people that you absolutely do not expect to come from. You know what I mean? And it just makes you feel like you're not alone. That, you know, it really relieves the anxiety, because a lot of the anxiety is trying to hide that you're not okay, you know? Zen, thank you very much. Yeah. Katie, yeah. You don't have to prove yourself. Like if I hadn't, you know, had that anxiety attack in the middle of the night, I never would have heard those words. I honestly think that was the best thing that happened to me in the festival, was having the anxiety attack and having John talk to me through it. All right, enjoy your dinner, Michael. Yeah. And so like when I came downstairs, you know, from my hotel room down to the little dining hall area, because you eat with everyone every meal. So I came down, someone asked me, like a student asked me how I was doing. And I was like, honestly, not really okay. I said all my things about our grandmothers. And then he was like, you know, it's kind of weird, but I get it. Because he told me that a close loved one of his also passed recently in the last couple months. And I didn't expect that, you know. Someone on the staff who was one of the assistants also told me that same thing happened to her last year. You know, and like just everyone, as soon as I open up first, everyone opens up back to me and they're like, yeah, same thing happened to me. I opened up about my claustrophobia as well. I don't know if you guys know this, but I have claustrophobia. And so I had an anxiety attack in the middle, smack dab in the middle of the long flight between Montreal and Milan. And I learned my lesson, though. I learned that I am not the type of person who can wear earplugs on a flight, on a long flight, because earplugs makes me feel even more trapped. So I learned that I need to be listening to something the entire time. And listening to like a soundtrack or something like that can make me feel like I'm not locked into and trapped into this space. So I had a great flight coming back, but going there, my claustrophobia triggered. And then I noticed as well, like in during one of our excursions, we were in a museum, and I noticed just like kind of an ache in the pit of my stomach, and I was like, I think it's claustrophobia, because it's actually one of my symptoms of claustrophobia is I get kind of like a stomach ache. And so I just kept focusing on the fact that I'm not trapped in here. I am leaving right now. So I just started to make a beeline out, got out, and then within, I want to say 15-20 minutes after that, the ache went away. And like I was like, okay, I am recognizing my own like claustrophobia symptoms. I'm dealing with it accordingly, and I am like making sure that I'm not triggered all the way. Like I'm recognizing my triggers and stuff like that. And I decided to be open about that and talk about it with the students. And immediately, like students like left and right were like, yeah, I get the same thing. It's so nice to talk openly about it. I'm like, yeah, it is actually really nice to talk really openly about anxiety, claustrophobia, loss, grief. And oh, Malika, thank you so much. I think what I want to like focus on in my vlog of my Italy trip is this experience of learning that I don't have to prove myself, and no one has to prove themselves, not even students. Even as a student, you're there to learn. You're not there to prove yourself. Proving yourself is not the point of being a student. The point of being a student is to learn. And if you learn something, you accomplished your goal. You don't have to prove anything, you know? And like, it's so powerful, you know, like this concept of, because I think a lot of people say, hey, just be yourself. But what I really think is at the bottom of like, oh, be yourself, because like a lot of people are like, what's myself, right? I think at the bottom of it, though, I think it's what John told me, is that you don't have to prove yourself. That's what being yourself means. That there's nothing to prove. So you just are, you know? And hey, Einstein. But yeah, so like those are the three things that I really learned was you don't have to prove yourself. Be transparent and be the first one to open up. Because don't expect someone to like open up to you first before you open up, you know? Like be the first one, you know, be the person who sits down with someone sitting by themselves, you know? like be that person. Yeah. Like that's how you create support and community, as Deanna is saying here. Like that's how you create that. I felt like I kind of accidentally created that by doing these three things. By the end of the festival, it really felt like everyone was family, you know, because like we all sat together, ate together. When you eat together, you really bond, you know? Yeah, so like I mean, in terms of the like performances and the coachings and the teaching and the lessons and stuff like that, all really great stuff. We were absolute fantastic nerds together. It was a great time. At least my students told me they learned a lot from me. So I'm like, okay, I did my job. And ironically, I felt like I did my job better because I felt like I didn't have to prove myself, you know, like when you don't have that extra anxiety of having to prove yourself, you do better work, you know? So it's just better for everyone. But yeah, I'm going to have to wrap up really soon. I'm taking, keeping an eye on the time because I am teaching another lesson after this. But there you go, guys. That's my very long update as to what happened in June and July. The July stuff was a lot happier, but June was really rough. Oh, Connor. Yeah, Connor, when you go to school, when you go to music school, I'll say it to you personally right here, right now. You don't have to prove yourself, okay? There's nothing to prove. Your job is to learn. And if you learn, you've accomplished your goal. That's it, okay? I also didn't really have a clear goal for the festival until I was told that I don't need to prove myself. And then I had a new goal for the festival because at first I was like, really the goal was in the beginning, and thus gave me a lot of anxiety, was holy crap, I have to actually look and act the part of a faculty, right? And then I was told by John that I don't have to look and act the part of the faculty, at least the way that I've dreamed up in my head. I can just be myself. And then suddenly the goal shifted to be those three things that I just talked about. You don't have to prove yourself. Be transparent and be the first one to be vulnerable, to be open. And I stuck with that goal, with those three items under that goal. And man, it really made for an amazing festival by sticking with those goals. So Connor, if you can do the same thing, keep those three things in mind for when you go to music school, you're going to have a great time. A great time. The competency will come just from the fact that you are going to school and you are learning and you're practicing. It's going to come. It's totally fine. I'll tell you the three things that my professors told me when I left school, because I asked three professors separately what to do when you get out of school. And, what do you do when you're actually working? And they told me it's only three things. You're already competent because you would have graduated from school. Okay. So you're already competent enough to do professional things. Okay. Now, can you get better from where you are? Always. You never stop learning. Okay. But you're competent by that point. Okay. So it's competency, friendliness, and reliability. That's it. That's all you need. Because if you're competent, that means you can work. If you're friendly, it means people will want to work with you. That is how you make money in the music world, in the arts world, really, is through networking, right? How do you network? You just be yourself. You have nothing to prove. be vulnerable, be friendly. Okay. And the third thing is reliability. Reliability meaning show up. Show up for rehearsals. Don't blow rehearsals off. Show up for rehearsals. Show up for concerts, etc. Like whatever you have signed up to do, show up for those things. Be reliable. And people will want to work with you because they know you're reliable. They'll know that you show up, right? And like at the bottom of it, it really is exactly the same thing that John told me, is that you don't have to prove yourself. So there's really not much else to it, guys. I thought my professors were crazy when they told me that separately in 3 separate meals. They didn't even talk about it amongst themselves. All 3 of them told me exactly the same thing. But they were right. They were right, guys. It's just those 3 things. And then now I have three new things underneath the friendliness aspect. So 3 subpoints under the friendliness is you don't have to prove yourself, be transparent, and be the first one to be vulnerable. So, oh, Michael, how sweet of you. Yeah, you learned your F major in thirds. Yeah, will be very useful. But yeah, guys, I'm going to have to go. So I'm going to start saying goodbye. Can we sign off by having you guys tell me what you guys are up to after this? I'm very curious. I'm always curious to know, like, what are people doing while listening to me, and what are you doing after? It gives me a kind of a fun context of like knowing where I slip in. So I'll start first by telling you guys what I'm doing after this. I'm going to be teaching a lesson, and then after the lesson I will be probably helping John with the last bits of dinner. We're doing a braised pork belly. John has been wanting to show off his braised pork belly recipe that he was trying out while I was away in Italy. So we're going to have that. Then we'll pack up the leftovers, and then have a relaxing night. I think this evening I will be doing more of the summer event in Genshin Impact, the video game. It's a really, really cute summer event. So I think I'll be doing that. So that's going to be my evening. What are you guys doing? I don't know how to say your name. Is it Jiao? No? I'm glad you also made it for the tail end. I'm so sorry if I butchered your name. So Katie is going to orchestra rehearsal. Okay, great. Enjoy. Have a great time. Connor is working on a Baroque suite for clarinet. Fantastic. Mandy, you are recording a podcast? Yes. What's the podcast about? So Ngo, you got to schedule the classes for first year uni. Oh, have fun. Pick fun classes if you can squeeze them in with your gen eds, if you have to do gen eds. Jane, you are doing jewelry making. Fantastic. Pink Kitty, you're eating dinner and you've been procrastinating on schoolwork. Okay, here's how you get over procrastination, especially when you have a huge list. Just think to yourself that you only have to do the first thing. Because once you get that going, it's a domino effect, and you're going to want to do more. So, but in your head, just do the first thing. So Rihanna, you're working on the Vidor suite. Yes. I think I have the music for that, but I've never actually really looked at it. I think maybe I might have sight read it once. Phantom is, let's see, after cleaning, you're going to record a song for your channel. Fantastic. What song? Deanna, you're going to make dinner. Lovely. Probably going to watch Wheel of Time. Fantastic. Tomash, you're going to get ready for the whole year after your vacation. Oh, got it. Like the school year. Trying to find yourself after visiting your country. Oh, I feel you. Yeah, you got to get back on your feet. Essentially, that was me in the past week. So Einstein, you're going to bed. You went to Nigeria this summer. Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. It is currently midnight. Are you in Nigeria now? Is that why? Okay. Please have a wonderful night of rest. Sean, you are eating dinner. Maybe record some air very How do you say that? Demersement? Demersement. Demersement. Is it French? You guys know my French is horrible. So Mandy, your podcast is Mind of Mandy. That is so cute. And Malika, you are getting ready to practice 35 minutes of scales and arpeggios. Fantastic. Have a ton of fun doing that. Phantom, you are doing God Help the Outcast. Oh, is that from Hunchback of Notre Dame? God help the outcast. That one, right? Oh, that one is so beautiful. You're going to do on either alto flute or concert flute. Oh, fantastic. So Go RK is coding. Fantastic. My husband's also a software developer, so yeah. Thank you so much, Go Arcade. That's so sweet of you to say. You're eating lychees right now, Michael. Oh, fantastic. You have a FaceTime call with friends. Oh, fantastic. VC, hello. I'm so sorry, but I'm actually leaving. I'm actually seeing what everyone's doing after this stream. Opus 2, number 4, if I wanted to look it up. Okay, will do. I'm just going to copy that over here. Opus 2, number 4. All right. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Solo of the month rep for July. Oh, got it. It's that Facebook group, right? The Facebook flute group. Solo of the month. Cool. Let's see. VC, your teacher has a fully decked out Haynes Q1 for only $2,000 and you're deciding if it fits you right now. Oh, exciting. Let us know. Come back to another stream and let us know what you decided. Okay. It's okay either way, but we're all nerds here and would love to know and celebrate with you. And Danny, you're making tacos. Fantastic. Sounds delicious. Okay. I think I will call it quits there. Thank you so much for joining me, guys, and for indulging me and listening to me and telling me what you guys are doing. It's just really fun to see what everyone's up to. Oh, you're one of the admins now in the Facebook group. Look at you, Sean. But yeah, so I love y'all so very much. I'll say my normal outro. Please stay happy, healthy, and safe. Take care of yourselves, all right? Because there is no music without the musician. So I love y'all. I will see you guys later. Oh my God, you're working on a digital flute practice planner. That is cute, Deanna. If you come out with it somewhere for sale, let us know, okay? All right. Laters. See you, everyone. I love y'all. Bye.